Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we sit down with Nicole and Ruth Dusseault from the Humboldt Area People's Archive to talk about how the counterculture surrounding cannabis and the Back to the Land movement has shaped the history and development of this region. Also, KEET has launched a new YouTube channel, Neon Galactic, that will feature yours truly doing deep dives with experts on the UAP mystery. One of our first episodes, recently released, features Ross Coulthart, author and investigative journalist. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. It would be a difficult task to imagine how Humboldt County and its neighbors would have developed this past half-century without cannabis as a major social and economic influence, as well as the downwind community impacts from all of those involved. On the surface, the economic contributions alone are astounding and have provided a major financial boost at a time when the more traditional sources of income, timber and fishing, waned due to depleting resources. There's also the notoriety and acclaim that comes from being the preeminent brand name in the cannabis industry. All over the world, the name Humboldt conjures thoughts of stony weed and redwoods. And for many, without weed, Humboldt County would be just another anonymous rural backwater. Yet these are only the most obvious impacts. The cannabis industry and its broader counterculture has influenced the social scene, the musical scene, arts, politics, education, craftsmanship, and virtually every other area of endeavor. The Humboldt Area People's Archive is working to elucidate and chronicle those impacts and has scheduled an event, Spectrum of Dissent, for July 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Wrangletown Cider in Arcata. As the flyer for that event notes, the vast influence amounts to way more than just homesteads and tie-dye. We'll be back after this short break with Nicole and Ruth Dusseault.
Calling all campers, I'm Zane. Join me at Camp TV. Feeling crafty? We've got that covered.
We're good.
What about creative? We've got that too. Spot on, don't you think? From super science and amazing arts to music, magic, movement, and more. No matter the weather, we'll explore together. Make your way to Camp TV. I can't wait to see you here.
Sunday morning at 8 on KEET HD.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Ruth, for joining us. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to be on our show.
Thank you.
So let's start with you, Nicole. What is the Humboldt Area People's Archive and what's your role within it?
Sure, yes. So the Humboldt Area People's Archive, as the name suggests, it's an archive, a historical organization. And what we do is that we collect and we preserve documents, evidence of the recent history of Humboldt County. And when I say recent, I mean from the 60s to now. We really are talking about counterculture, back to the land, the homesteaders. And so this is the kind of history that has not really been shown, that has tended to be perhaps neglected or ignored by more traditional institutions. And we've taken it upon ourselves to preserve that history.
Now, like we pointed out, or you pointed out to me before we started, it's not just cannabis. Like this surrounds cannabis in a way, but it's like it's a much broader than that. It's talking about all the different elements that sort of came with the sort of the philosophical underpinnings of the cannabis industry in a way. Is that right?
Very much so. Cannabis sure plays a part in it, like it plays a part in everything in Humboldt County.
Absolutely.
But there was a lot of people that came back to the land and came from an anti-nuclear or a peace activist background, and people who were trying to build a different society, to build something more just, something that had more of a chance of equal rights for all. And I think what's interesting actually is that very issue is a burning issue today.
Yeah, absolutely.
50 years later. Yeah. And so what they did a lot of was grassroots organizing, community events, and then some of them were growing cannabis, which enabled them to sustain themselves. And of course, cannabis has its own history. But really, our focus is all of the elements of that culture that have happened, particularly in southern Humboldt. This was the epicenter of it, but also plenty of pockets of counterculture in northeast Humboldt or near Willow Creek area and other parts of the Emerald Triangle.
Sure. It's interesting that the cannabis sort of may have provided the funding in some ways, and maybe the engine for some of the experimenting that went on socially. But it's fascinating when you view Humboldt County as an outsider. There's a lot of things going on here that aren't going on anywhere else, and I think this is partly the reason for it, or probably the majority of the reasons.
I mean, I would agree. I think that cannabis can open people's minds, and so at the same time as it provided extra income, it really brought together an unusual combination of factors that enabled people to be more creative and to have the time, the space, and the resources to organize from the grassroots.
Yeah.
We do see that that's not the only thing, because, for example, more recently, there has been still a lot of cannabis production, say in the early 2000s, but we weren't seeing the kind of cultural and artistic and political happenings that were happening early on. So I think it's not the only factor. There was also something about that time, perhaps something about those particular individuals.
Yeah.
And again, I think that we are coming back to a time where this level of activism is really rising.
Yeah. Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes.
So let's get you into the conversation. I understand that you're going to be presenting at the event coming up. Can you sort of give us a preview of what you want to talk about and your thoughts concerning this effort to archive this material?
Well, as a journalist and a filmmaker, I think I've been invited to this event to span the countercultural history that Nicole is chronicling in her important archive.
Sure.
From 2012 to 2018, I documented a range of post-recession technology-enabled communes. So sort of circling back to the same social landscape as the communalists of the 1960s,
Sure.
except instead of using the whole Earth catalog, they had the internet.
Yeah. Now, so did you originally, was it COVID that sort of spurred you in that direction, or were you doing that even before COVID began?
No. This was, it began in 2012, well before COVID.
Sure.
And at that time period, my research question was, of course, how has the presence of the internet changed the countercultural idea of a self-sustaining community? Mm-hmm. So Google Earth was just released in 2005, iPhone 2007, personal technologies, wayfinding apps, social media, it was still making its initial impact on society. Yeah. And I was looking for a creative avenue for observing and recording those changes.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the question I'd like to pose to you is that it seems like that we're all more isolated in silos now because of social media and whatnot. A lot of people don't even some people don't even get out of the house as a result. But the communal spirit is surviving.
Well, the first act of a 21st century communalist was to climb a tree and hook up a solar-powered internet transponder so they could open their laptops and download all the tutorials they needed for survival in the wilderness, right?
That's interesting.
So it was the recession. And the people that I discovered were not older people. They were young people who just graduated into this economic abyss. They had no jobs, but they had their technology, and the social media did enable them to find each other in rural locations and set up camp.
So, Nicole, we were talking before the show, and we were talking about some of the major institutions in Humboldt County that we all kind of look to, like the North Coast Environmental Center and others. And so many of those, and so many of the names that we, associate with our political, institutions, they all, or most of them, arose out of this movement. It was like really a intellectual renaissance.
Absolutely. I think that's a great word. Renaissance is a great word. It was very effervescent, and there were institution building that happened on really a remarkable scale for a small rural place like Humboldt County. We have not only the North Coast Environmental Center, but there is EPIC, there is the Salmon Restoration Council, Mattole Salmon Group, and it goes on, Ancient Forests International. So many institutions, organizations that developed for environmental restoration. This is really before there was much talk about climate change and all of these issues that we now realize are absolutely crucial. There was already an awareness of that happening, and people knew how to organize. There was a discipline to that time that I think we can learn from today in terms of how people organized, how they developed a rigorous process for getting done, if I may say so. And that's just one part of it, the environmental aspect of it. There was also a huge creative time.
Absolutely.
Many theater organizations, lots of music, festivals going on. And then along with that, of course, a lot of activism in terms of preserving civil rights, for example, preserving civil liberties. The Civil Liberties Monitoring Project was a huge endeavor out of Garberville that successfully limited some egregious violations by law enforcement during the camp years.
Absolutely.
And so we have all these different aspects of the culture that developed, yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what kind of material is in the archive?
Yeah. So our archive is like a treasure chest, I think. We have, of course, a lot of documents. We have a lot of written material. We have also a lot of audio. We have many oral interviews that have been recorded. People have entrusted these materials to us. We have posters. We have artifacts, T-shirts,
and
a lot
more.
of a lot of ephemera. And music as well. So it really covers the whole range of historical evidence.
I mean, so what do you think that, I mean, since you have a global perspective on the archive, what do you think it says about the people of that time and who we've become?
Well, first of all, I think that it would be hard to narrow it down to just a few words, because one of the beauties of this history is that it is so diverse, that there is so much going on. It is so rich and complex. Clearly, there was and still is, I think, actually in Humboldt, an ability to be creative and to work, create, act outside of the norms, and to challenge the status quo in all kinds of ways, whether it was through playwriting, like Jane Lapiner and David Simpson are great examples of that, remarkable, or whether it was through grassroots organizing, building schools, building lots of charter schools through the community. So I think a spirit of dissent, precisely, along with a good sprinkling of fun.
Ruth, real quick, you're a journalist and you come from UC Berkeley, which is obviously an institution that we all admire and respect. Can you tell us a little bit about how something like this kind of archive, helps a journalist or a historian in their work to tell an accurate and important story?
Well, it helped me because I was comparing the communalists of the 21st century with these mid-20th century communalists. And the first thing that the 21st century, it helped a lot because I was comparing 21st century communalists with 20th century communalists. And one of the things, for example, that I found was an increased focus on design innovation, which was a continuation of their creative experimentalism. These people that I met could invent something on their homesteads and then immediately share it with others online who might download it and make their own improvements and then upload that. So there was a higher turnover for prototyping that was propelled by just the sheer rate and volume of sharing. The other thing that I found was the adoption of educational business models. Social media campaigns, registration websites could advertise for visitors to come and create. They made educational YouTube channels, workshops, design residencies, and did special events.
So it sounds like
so
it works.
I found that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I found in comparison, I sort of found that the 60s DIY legacy that she has archived had been sort of transformed generationally from maybe a protest against systems of mass production into kind of a mass system of individual production with technology.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And all I was going to point out is that it seems to have a snowballing effect. It's like you get some innovation, and the way that the culture or the counterculture works in the internet, in the case of what you're studying, it just sort of propels more growth, more innovation, which I think we should always encourage. If people want to donate materials to this archive, because there's a lot of people who've lived through this in Humboldt County, what can they do and how should they go about it?
Yes, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. And so we have been collecting lots of materials, and we are getting people donating materials actually on an increasing rate, probably because many people are coming to the end of their lives, and they want to be sure that what they've accomplished in their lives, their efforts are being preserved. So if you go to our website is humboldtareaarchive.org, and you will find under the tab Give all the information that's needed to donate your materials. We have an archivist at our archive. Her name is Edie Butler. She was the archivist at HSU, now Cal Poly Humboldt.
Okay.
She's outstanding. We're very grateful to have her. And she goes through a very rigorous process of meeting with the donor of the materials, assessing the materials, and then determining what should go into the archive and how to transfer it to the archive.
Where's it being stored at the moment?
Right. So archives need to be stored in climate-controlled storage, which is where we have it. So we have a facility that is fully climate-controlled, no fire danger, and that's where the archives are preserved. We have shelves and shelves stacked all the way up. And in fact, we have so much material coming in that we are now faced with an urgent need. And so I would ask the viewers to consider this. We need a larger facility.
Now, we were talking that this might eventually evolve into a public access kind of situation, right?
That would be ideal,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it will happen. That would be ideal because on the one hand, we need to have an area where we preserve our materials with a space for researchers. We have researchers, academics that come and they want to start looking through the materials, and so they need to have a space for that. And then we also would like to have a space where we can show our materials on display.
Yeah. So how can people give to that effort? Is there the same way?
Yes, so again, going to our website, there is a way to contact us. That would be great. There is also a way to contact us on Facebook or Instagram, of course, and we are very reachable. So if people have the opportunity to consider where a space might be available as a larger facility for us, anywhere from Garberville to Arcata, please reach out. And also if people have materials, we absolutely want to safeguard these materials.
Absolutely. Real quick, let's go over the there's a word. Let's look at the graphic with the details for this event. It's going to be held on July. Maybe you should tell
12,
us.
yes.
July 12th.
It's on Wednesday, July 12th, starting at 6:30 p.m.
And it's going to be held at the
Wrangletown Cider, which is at 955 I Street in Arcata.
Excellent. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you guys coming in, and Ruth, appreciate you beaming in through the interwebs.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, I just would like to very briefly speak to this event that we have coming up next Wednesday. I think it's going to be a really captivating event. We have a panel of experts and activists who've actually
Including Ruth, right?
Yes, including Ruth.
Yeah.
People who've actually lived through that transformative era and in fact have made an impact on that. And so it is free to the public. Please come and join and immerse yourself into that time, into those stories, shed light on it. And I think integrating these stories, integrating these accounts into our understanding of history can really help foster a more diverse, a more inclusive perspective.
Yeah. Basically, your event is going to, in a lot of ways, mirror the archive because there's a lot of people that are going to be there from a lot of different, elements of our society and culture up here, and I think it sounds like it's going to be a great evening. So.
Thank you. We think so.
No problem. We'll be right back after this short break.
Friends and supporters of KEET TV, we are calling all who have a passion for public television on the North Coast. KEET is looking for a diverse group of people to join its Community Advisory Board, or CAB. CAB members play an advising role to management and act as KEET's ambassadors within the community. Meetings are held quarterly on Zoom. Go to KEET.org, find the link for CAB, and get involved today. We look forward to meeting you.
After an extensive manhunt, authorities have arrested Jason Dwayne Coley in connection with the shooting death in McKinleyville. KEET contributor Ryan Hudson has the story.
On the eve of Independence Day, Monday night, a shooting occurred in McKinleyville, claiming the life of a 25-year-old man, Kenneth Michael Davis, age 25, of McKinleyville. The shooter, Jason Coley of McKinleyville, fled the scene and was apprehended Wednesday night. but had been on the run for 48 hours before being spotted by a community member in the Trinidad area who reported the sighting immediately, leading to the arrest of the at-large murder suspect. As the dispatch call initially reports over the police scanner, Colley had fled the crime scene at the home on Silverbrook Court in McKinleyville with the black pump shotgun used in the homicide.
Approximately 17-20 hours, deputy responding to the 2000 block of Silverbrook Court, McKinleyville, for the report of a gunshot victim. Suspect fled the area in a black mid-2000s Hyundai or possibly a Passat with Tennessee plates, unknown direction of travel. Prior to deputy arrival, still armed with a black shotgun. Remedial warrant being issued for the suspect. If located, approach with caution and notify Humboldt County SO.
For 48 hours, residents in northern Humboldt, particularly in McKinleyville and Trinidad areas, were on high alert over the 4th of July holiday, when local police had asked the public to lock their doors and take extra precautions while being aware of their surroundings in case a suspicious person fitting the description of the suspect could be seen. Sheriff's Department deputies were directed to the area of College Cove in Trinidad on Wednesday night after receiving a report from a community member who came across a man lying in some bushes with a shotgun. This person immediately left the area to call police. Humboldt County Sheriff's Office deputies and California State Park Rangers responded to the location and ultimately arrested the subject, Jason Colley, without incident. Colley was arrested for the crime of murder and is being held without bail, according to a sheriff's press release. The shotgun recovered during the arrest is thought to be the same shotgun used in the crime. No additional suspects are at large, according to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, and we have yet to learn about a motive in regard to the tragic shooting death of Kenneth Michael Davis, age 25, of McKinleyville. For Headline Humboldt, this is Ryan Hudson.
KEET's new YouTube channel, Neon Galactic, kicked off its recent launch by interviewing award-winning journalist and author Ross Coulthart. He was instrumental in breaking the story of whistleblower David Grush, which we've talked about on this show extensively. You can view the entire hour-long interview at youtube.com/@neongalactic. A highly cleared former intelligence officer, Grush claims to have uncovered information relating to a hidden special access program seeking to reverse engineer non-human craft in its possession. He's gone before Congress and inspectors general with his claims, which were determined to be urgent and credible. His allegations led to several members of Congress calling for congressional hearings. Here's an excerpt from that interview.
The American media were led, and indeed I myself as an Australian media representative, were led by the nose by the intelligence community back in 2002, 2003. And we were told definitively that there were absolutely superb sources who could verify that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction. And we were told it was an absolute national security imperative that your country and mine had to be part of the coalition to invade Iraq and to rid the world of the nuclear or biological weapons that Saddam Hussein was developing in secret. All of this was based on alleged source evidence that the intelligence community assured journalists like myself they should believe. You know what? It was a complete lie. And if they'd done their homework, they would have known it was a complete lie. Their source was a dud. Here you have a situation, almost the exact opposite, where a man from within the intelligence community is going on the record definitively asserting that he has discovered things that are being improperly, if not criminally, withheld from the proper oversight of your Congress. And the incredible thing is, the same media that was so slavishly willing to believe the assurances of intelligence officials about anonymous sources that led us into a $2 trillion war are now reluctant to engage with an intelligence official who has the courage to come forward and state what he believes is the truth. At the very least, he deserves a hearing. And as much as the squealing little debunkers and the rabid little propagandists are reluctant to hear it, it looks like he's going to finally get the opportunity to put his evidence before the Congress in a public way. And then we'll really see who's right.
As part of a partnership grant with WETA's new series, Iconic America, we're highlighting our own icon here in Humboldt, the Redwoods. This week, we speak with Patrick Taylor, Interpretation and Education Program Manager for Redwood National and State Parks. You can catch the next episode of Iconic America, Our Symbols and Stories, with David Rubenstein on Tuesday, July 11th at 10 p.m.
Many people, when they come here for the first time, there's the sense that they're walking into a land that's been preserved and untouched for generations. And the truth is, this land has been managed for thousands and thousands of years by the Yurok, the Tolowa, and the other tribes that have lived on the northern coast of California for centuries. A little over 100 years ago, as the Western migration came to the area, they began intensive logging in this area, and there are large swaths of what is now Redwood National and State Parks that were completely clear-cut, just completely denuded of all the trees. Everything used to look like what you see behind me, but 2/3 of that was lost. And a lot of it was replanted with aerial seeding. And what that meant is when the trees came in, they were all the same age, the same height, and they grew in these very heavy patterns that we often refer to as dog hair, because it's so thick that even humans can't walk and navigate through it, let alone the elk and the bears and some of the bigger wildlife that live in the area. In recognition of that, there's several organizations that came together to launch an initiative called Redwood Rising. And Redwood Rising is an effort to go in those overgrown areas and thin it out, actually remove a lot of the trees so it opens up and allow nature to begin the process of restoring itself so that everything eventually will look like what you see behind me again. Redwood National and State Parks is an amazing partnership across agencies and communities. Everybody that comes here just falls in love with the trees. It's hard to explain what these trees will mean to you on a personal level, but even people that have been here before, they have their favorite trees. When you come here, you make those connections, you feel this affinity, and you want to protect it for yourself and for future generations. And that's really what we're all about, is making sure that we enjoy it today, but people a generation from now, 20 generations from now, will still be able to come back here and preserve it so that it can be an icon now and into the future.
So you can catch the next episode of Iconic America, Our Symbols and Stories with David Rubenstein on Tuesday, July 11th at 10 p.m. And as long as we're speaking about next week, July 12th, Spectrum of Dissent. That's the event that we covered tonight in our interview. That'll be held at July 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Wrangletown Cider. And this event is, of course, set up to help establish and fund the People's Archive. And that's a worthwhile endeavor, in my opinion. That's it for tonight and for this week. Stay tuned, stay informed.